couple had been arrested after police found drugs in the baby's stroller with the child inside. At around 10 a.m. on Friday the 24th of May, authorities were dispatched after receiving reports of two suspicious individuals walking down West Center Street in Madisonville, Kentucky with a baby stroller who appeared intoxicated. Officers found 34-year-old Tiffany McCord and 30-year-old Thomas Parker entering an abandoned home near West Arch Street and Pride Avenue, but Thomas ran from the home, leaving Tiffany behind with the baby. While speaking with Tiffany, police found meth and other synthetic drugs, drug paraphernalia, and medication for the baby inside several bags hanging from the baby's stroller. Police said that Tiffany only claimed that a diaper bag only contained an ashtray, lighter and a small plastic baggie. She said none of the other items belonged to her. While arresting Tiffany, police called an ambulance to check on the baby. When officers picked up the child, they discovered the baby was sitting on a pile of live maggots in the stroller. The next day, police arrested Thomas on an outstanding warrant. While at the Hopkins County Jail, investigators interviewed Thomas about his relationship with Tiffany and the child. Thomas told him he's the father of the baby and cares for him with Tiffany. He said he was supposed to clean the stroller, but only did part of it. He denied owning any of the drugs found in the bags on the stroller. Thomas was charged with wanton endangerment, and Tiffany was charged with drug trafficking, wanton endangerment and possession of drug paraphernalia. They're both held at the Hopkins County Jail. The investigation into the matter continues. A 35-year-old woman is accused of giving birth to a baby in a public restroom and then trying to flush the infant down the toilet. At just after 8 p.m. on Wednesday the 29th of May, authorities responded to an IHOP restaurant at 3240 Scottsville Road in Bowling Green, Kentucky after receiving 911 calls about a woman bleeding in the bathroom and had possibly miscarried. The caller reported that the baby was in the toilet and that the woman had attempted to flush the baby down. When police and medics arrived, the newborn was already dead, and witnesses said that the woman, later identified as Shanika Caldwell, had already fled the scene. Police quickly located her standing in the parking lot of a Red Roof Inn just down the road at 3140 Scottsville Road. She admitted to police that she had been at IHOP but denied being pregnant. Shanika refused to be evaluated by medics, claimed she had not had sex in the past 6 years, and claimed to be related to Michael Jordan and Denzel Washington. Police said that Shanika was unable or unwilling to provide personal identifying information, saying only that she was from New York and in town for business. Shanika was taken into custody for an emergency health evaluation, and then she was taken to jail. She's held at the Warren County Jail on a $2,500 bond, and is charged with concealing the birth of an infant. It's unclear whether the infant was born alive, and an autopsy is pending, and further charges are possible. The investigation into the matter continues. A 37-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting a 50-year-old woman. At around 1:25 a.m. on Wednesday the 29th of May, police responded to the Teuton Totem at 2601 Southwest 3rd in Amarillo, Texas on reports of a man with a gunshot wound to his hand. When officers arrived, the male victim told officers there was another shooting victim at a house at 116 Bauer Street, less than half a mile away. Police and paramedics went to the home and found 50-year-old Rosa Marie Rangel deceased with multiple gunshot wounds. Another witness said they saw a man walking down Bauer Street with a gun. Police said they received a call earlier at 1 a.m. about someone in a white Dodge Challenger firing shots nearby at 1st Avenue and North Polk Street. At around 8:45 a.m. that morning, police stopped a white Dodge Challenger at West Amarillo Boulevard and North Ong Street after a short chase. The driver of the car, 37-year-old Jose Flores, was identified as a suspect in the homicide, and he was taken into custody. Police did not release information about the man who was shot and injured. The motive of the killing is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. 33-year-old Geronimo Duran is behind bars for murdering his 2-year-old daughter Melody Duran amid a custody dispute with the girl's mother. At just after 9:40 a.m. on Tuesday the 28th of May, authorities responded to a residence at 404 Southwest 177 Avenue in Pembroke Pines, Florida on reports of an injured child. When police and medics arrived, they found an unresponsive girl bleeding profusely from her neck. First responders immediately rendered aid before transporting her to a nearby hospital, where she was pronounced dead. Authorities identified the child's father, Geronimo Duran, as the suspect in her death. He had blood all over his body and clothing, and a bloody knife was found nearby, and he was taken into custody. Investigators said that Geronimo picked up Melody at his ex-girlfriend Moa Clark's house at 7:08 a.m. and brought her back to his residence at 7:24 a.m. where he lives with his grandmother. Geronimo's grandmother Hilda Carbello returned home at 9:32 a.m. and found Geronimo laying on top of the victim in the kitchen. The grandmother asked what he was doing and told him to get off the girl. Geronimo moved, and the grandmother saw Melody was blue and discolored. The grandmother went into another room and contacted her daughter, who told her to call 911. When she returned to the kitchen, she saw Geronimo kneeling over Melody, who was bleeding. The grandmother ran to her room as Geronimo remained sitting silent in the kitchen. Geronimo's stepfather arrived at the house and administered CPR until paramedics arrived. Pembroke Pines police received the 911 call at 9:43 a.m. from the woman speaking in Spanish, who said that the child looked yellow and it was unknown if she was breathing. Dispatch could hear screaming in the background. Officials arrived at 9:47 a.m. and at 9:57 a.m. alerted paramedics that the girl's throat had been slit. Authorities said that detectives went to the hospital and saw a large laceration that appears to begin on the left side of the child's neck and towards the right side. They determined the injury was made with a sharp-edged cutting instrument. Geronimo told investigators that he suffers from mental health issues and he'd been committed to a facility through the Baker Act, which enables families and loved ones to provide emergency mental health services and temporary detention for people who are impaired because of their mental illness and who are unable to determine their needs for treatment. He said he stopped taking his antidepressant and started smoking marijuana, including on the day of the killing. Geronimo admitted to choking Melody until she became unconscious. When his grandmother got home and went to her room to call for help, he removed a kitchen knife from the butcher block and cut his daughter. Detectives located a bloody steak knife on the floor, which was also covered in blood. Geronimo said that he fucked up and ruined his family. Authorities said that Melody and her mother moved out of Geronimo's home in March of 2023 because Geronimo was violent. Geronimo and his ex were in a custody dispute, but a parenting plan allowed him to have unsupervised custody of the girl. Melody's mother told a judge at a previous court hearing that Geronimo had a history of hearing voices to end his life, some while the child was with him alone. She said she had to commit Geronimo using the Baker Act 5 times. According to a custody court document filed in May of 2023, Geronimo suffers from paranoia, anxiety and anger issues, including punching the wall. He's known to use illegal drugs and his behavior is erratic, aggressive, violent and dangerous to the mother and the minor child. He's abused the family dog by punching it in the face while the child was asleep in the home when the child was 4 months old. This is after he chased the mother into a bedroom with the child in her arms and punched the fan which bounced off the television and barely missed the dog. Geronimo was booked into the Broward County Jail on charges of first-degree murder and aggravated child abuse and is held without bond. The investigation into the matter continues. A 32-year-old woman is behind bars for fatally stabbing a young boy and injuring his mother. At 3:03 p.m. on Monday the 3rd of June, authorities responded to the parking lot outside of Giant Eagle grocery store at 27264 Lorraine Road in North Olmsted, Ohio and reports of a stabbing. When officers arrived, they found the victim's 3-year-old Julian Wood and his mother 38-year-old Margot Wood with stab wounds and were rushed to the St. John Medical Center in Westlake, where the young boy succumbed to his injuries, but his mother is expected to survive. Upon further investigation, detectives discovered that Margot was walking back to her car and pushing Julian, who was seated in the grocery cart after shopping, when Bianca Ellis ran up to them and stabbed the two with a kitchen knife. Investigators said that Bianca stabbed the young child in the face and back, and she stabbed his mother in the shoulder all within 5 seconds. Officers found Bianca walking toward Dover Center Road, still holding the knife, and took her into custody. Investigators said that she did not resist during her arrest, but she later refused to speak to detectives. Police believe the stabbing was unprovoked, and the victims had not contacted the suspect prior to the attack. Authorities said that Bianca was seen on surveillance video obtaining a knife from the Volunteers of America thrift store in the same shopping complex as Giant Eagle, and then walking into the grocery store where she passed the mother and child, before following them back to the car with a knife in hand, when she attacked them and then walked away from the scene. On Tuesday the 4th of June, Bianca appeared for her arraignment at the Rocky River Municipal Court via video. She was charged with aggravated murder and is held at the North Olmsted Jail with bond set at $1 million. A 43-year-old man is behind bars for murdering his 75-year-old mother. At 6:46 p.m. on Saturday the 1st of June, Pitt County deputies responded to a home at 3186 State Highway 903 in Stokes, North Carolina, where they found a woman 75-year-old Olivia Musgrave dead from what authorities called unnatural causes. The exact details of how Olivia died have not been disclosed, but authorities said that the evidence collected inside the residence, along with further information gathered during the investigations, led detectives to arrest Olivia's son, 43-year-old Richard Musgrave, at the crime scene. Richard was charged with open murder and booked into the Pitt County Detention Center, where he's been held without bond. Richard has a criminal history. Last year he was charged with assault with a deadly weapon and misdemeanor larceny after an incident on the 19th of August, where he struck an employee with a vehicle after he stole 4 jugs of tea valued at $15 from the store. Richard pleaded guilty to charges of assault with a deadly weapon and reckless driving. The larceny charge and the charge of hit and run were dismissed. In January, he was sentenced to 75 days in jail and 18 months of supervised probation for those charges. On the 1st of February, Richard was charged with simple assault and assault on a female after he punched a male doctor and a woman in the face. In April, he pleaded guilty to simple assault, where the charge of assault on a female was dismissed by the Pitt County District Attorney's Office. He was sentenced to 30 days in jail and 12 months of supervised probation. Of note, in 2011, Richard was reported missing and was described as suffering from dementia or some other cognitive impairment. The motive of the killing is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. "22-year-old Melissa Barnes is behind bars on abuse charges." On the 2nd of January, Hillsborough County deputies in Tampa, Florida responded to a call from a concerned relative who told dispatch that Melissa handed her a bottle filled with bleach and instructed her to feed her baby. The relative told authorities that she found Melissa and the toddler living in an unpowered shed, which the relative described as being cold, cluttered and unsanitary. The relative said that she removed the baby girl from the shed and attempted to feed it with a bottle provided by Melissa, but the child refused to drink. While inspecting the bottle, the relative noticed that it contained bleach. When questioned about it, Melissa claimed to use the bleach to rinse the bottle. Detectives with the Sheriff's Office Special Victims Unit took over the investigation, and agents from the Florida Department of Children and Families removed the girl from Melissa's care and placed her with a relative. Detectives obtained a search warrant for the shed, where they found bleach-based disinfectant and paint. The contents of the baby bottle were sent to the FBI laboratory for analysis, which confirmed the presence of chlorine-based bleach. Based upon the evidence, detectives obtained a warrant on charges of child abuse and child neglect from Melissa's arrest on the 28th of May. On the 3rd of June, she was located and detained by deputies with the Highlands County Sheriff's Office, roughly 110 miles away. Melissa currently remains jailed in Highlands County and will be extradited to Hillsborough County at a later date. Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Chronister said, "This case is deeply disturbing. No child deserves to be subjected to such dangerous and neglectful conditions. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office is committed to protecting our community's most vulnerable, and we will work tirelessly to ensure that those who harm children are held accountable." The investigation into the matter continues. 25-year-old Robert Cooley is behind bars for killing his wife, 26-year-old Amber Cooley, after she recently gave birth and was looking to get a divorce. At just before 7:20 a.m. on Saturday the 1st of June, authorities responded to a residence in the 3000 block of Armory Drive near Schuyler Lane in Indianapolis, Indiana on reports of a person shot. As officers pulled up to the couple's home, they saw Robert exiting the premises through an open garage door to greet them. He was wearing clothing that was covered in blood when he approached them. He said, "I did something bad. I need to go to jail." As officers were walking him away from the house, body-worn camera footage showed Robert saying, "I took my wife's life." When officers entered the premises, they found an adult female victim identified as 26-year-old Amber Cooley in the upstairs bedroom, deceased with a gunshot wound to her head. Police also noted Amber's throat had been slit and her face was beaten so badly that she was virtually unrecognizable. Officers found a firearm in the house and arrested Robert on suspicion of murder. Police found the couple's 5-week-old infant girl inside the home, but it's unclear who's currently looking after her. In a subsequent interview with detectives, Robert admitted to beating and shooting his wife. He also said he slit her throat with a razor blade that he hid inside a shoebox. Robert's brother told police that Robert used FaceTime to call him at around 7 a.m. that morning and said, "I just killed Amber, bro." Amber's mother said that Robert had been verbally abusive to her daughter over the course of their 5-year relationship. She said that her daughter asked her the night before she was killed to help her get paperwork together, to help her get out of the situation and end her marriage, she said. Robert and Amber reportedly argued on Friday the 31st of May, which made Robert very upset. Robert is charged with murder and is held at the Marin County Jail without bond. The investigation into the matter continues. A 24-year-old man is behind bars for fatally stabbing his 61-year-old mother. At just before 1:30 a.m. on Monday the 3rd of June, authorities responded to residents at 67 Porter Road in Howell Township, New Jersey on reports of a disturbance. When first responders arrived, they entered the premises and found 61-year-old Loretta Parody in a bedroom with stab wounds to her chest. Medics rushed her to a local hospital for emergency treatment, where she was pronounced dead. Police identified her son, Robert Parody, who remained on scene as a suspect in her murder. He was arrested without incident. Authorities determined that Robert, who lives with his mother, entered her bedroom and stabbed her in the chest while she slept. Robert was booked into the Monmouth County Jail on charges of murder and weapon-related charges and is held without bond. The motive of the killing is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A New Hampshire man will spend at least the next 4 decades behind bars for killing his mother and setting her remains on fire after she asked him to turn down the volume of his PlayStation. On Tuesday the 4th of June 2024, 47-year-old Thomas Humphrey was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison after he pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. He also pleaded guilty to felony arson for burning the remains and was sentenced to 5 to 10 years. The sentences will run back-to-back. On the 28th of November 2023, Thomas was playing the PlayStation that his 70-year-old mother Linda Tufts had given him as a birthday gift. The two got into an argument over how loud he was playing the video games after she asked him to turn the volume down. This enraged Thomas, and he stabbed his mother 22 times, almost decapitating her. Thomas then lit his mother's remains on fire inside their home at 34 Joffrey Street in Goffstown, New Hampshire. Thomas had been living in the basement at the time of the attack. First responders were called to the home at around 2:20 p.m. for a small fire. After they put out the blaze, they found Linda deceased in the home from stab wounds. Police also found Thomas at the bottom of the basement stairs, holding a knife with self-inflicted wounds. Thomas was taken to the hospital before being charged with his mother's murder. Neighbours said that Thomas had been kicked out of the house and was only allowed to return shortly before the attack. Thomas's father was at work when the killing happened. While sentencing Thomas, Judge William Delker said, "This is, in my more than a decade on the bench, one of the most brutal murders I've presided over. The brutality of this crime simply makes it too dangerous not to impose a very lengthy state prison sentence," he said. Two 18-year-old girls are behind bars and are accused of throwing acid in the face of another teen last month. The incident occurred at around midday on Sunday the 26th of May, near the intersection of North Dodge Avenue and West 3rd Street North in Wichita, Kansas. Police said that an acidic liquid was thrown at 17-year-old Passion Turner during a fight in front of a friend's house. Passion arrived at the local hospital with second-degree burns to her face and neck. On Wednesday the 5th of June, officers located and arrested two suspects, Yakira Hollins and Tyronia West, both 18 years old. They're each charged with one count of aggravated assault and are held at the Sedgwick County Jail with bond set at $150,000. Investigators are working to locate a third suspect, a 16-year-old girl from Topeka. The victim's older sister, Paris Polite, said that Passion knew her assailants, and at least one of them used to be her best friend. The investigation into the matter continues. A 24-year-old woman is behind bars for killing her parents. At just after 9 a.m. on Thursday the 6th of June, authorities received a call from a residence at 10 Washington Street in Bedford, Massachusetts, stating that a woman who lives at the home said she had just shot her parents. When officers arrived, they located a car on an adjacent lawn. Inside the vehicle, they found 56-year-old Thelma Tatton deceased and 56-year-old Mark Cavarello in a critical condition, and he was transported to a local hospital where he later died. Authorities said that 24-year-old Jessica Cavarello, who lives with her boyfriend's parents, told them that she was having a panic attack earlier that morning before retreating to her bedroom. After about 30 minutes, she came out and said she was going to have breakfast with her parents and left. Jessica then got into the backseat of her parents' car and shot them both in the back of their heads. A short while later, Jessica went back into the home declaring, "I just shot my parents," her boyfriend's father told police. He then called 911. Authorities said that Jessica got the gun from her boyfriend's safe. Jessica was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon causing serious bodily injury, and unlawful possession of a firearm. During her arraignment at the Concord District Court later that day, she was ordered to undergo a mental health evaluation and remains held without bond. Her next court appearance is scheduled for the 20th of August. The motive of the killings is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A father and his girlfriend are behind bars in connection to the death of a 3-month-old baby boy. 24-year-old Cody Dale Wilson and 26-year-old Tricia Lynn Grigson have been charged with the death of a child by a parent, guardian or custodian or other person by child abuse. At around 7:25 p.m. on Thursday the 23rd of May, authorities responded to a residence at 1026 Smith Street in Milton, West Virginia, after dispatchers were told there was an infant who went into cardiac arrest and was not breathing. When police arrived, 2 officers ran into apartment 3 and administered life-saving measures to the child. Medics arrived shortly thereafter, and the child was brought downstairs while they performed CPR. The infant was then transported to Cabell Huntington Hospital's emergency room and was later admitted to the pediatric intensive care unit where he died the next day. The baby was identified as Evander Meadows. Authorities said that the officers found that the child was in his father Cody's care at the time of the incident, and Tricia contacted 911. In the statements made to dispatchers, the child was in a baby swing when he began spitting up and having breathing complications. When CPR was administered by Tricia, Cody said that the child started coughing up blood. Medics who responded and performed CPR on the infant told officers there was trauma to the baby's head, and they were concerned about the markings on his neck that could indicate he had been choked. An autopsy performed on the child on Saturday the 25th of May found that there was major trauma to the child's left side of his head, causing a brain bleed, which was determined to be the cause of the child's death. The autopsy also found there was bruises on the child's neck consistent with being choked. Later that day, Cody and Tricia turned themselves in and were booked into the Western Regional Jail, and they've both been held on $100,000 cash-only bonds. The investigation into the matter continues. Homicide police are investigating after an 18-year-old woman was fatally shot inside a home during a party. At around 12:35 a.m. on Sunday the 2nd of June, authorities responded to a residence at 2695 Woods Edge Road in Columbus, Ohio on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they entered the premises and found an unresponsive woman with a gunshot wound. She was unable to be saved and was pronounced dead at 12:44 a.m. The victim was identified as 18-year-old Demaya Camelanda. Demaya's family said that she was at a friend's graduation party when she was shot. Her family said that she was planning to start a new job at a nursing home with a cousin this week. The motive of the killing is unclear, and no arrests have been made to date, as the investigation into the matter continues. A 43-year-old woman is behind bars after fatally shooting a 46-year-old woman. At around 10:40 p.m. on Saturday the 1st of June, authorities responded to a Shell gas station at the intersection of Crescent Ridge Road and Jack Warner Parkway in Tuscaloosa, Alabama on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they found 2 women in the area suffering from gunshot wounds. Both were taken to a local hospital where 46-year-old LaShonda Lee Street died from her injuries. The other woman, 43-year-old Rosanna Latrice Wilson, had minor injuries. After speaking with witnesses and reviewing video surveillance, detectives determined that the 2 women shot each other during an altercation in the parking lot. It's unclear what the argument was about, or whether the women knew each other. Rosanna was arrested and charged with murder, and is held at the Tuscaloosa County Jail without bond. The investigation into the matter continues.